All right, thanks. Sorry, I didn't know there was an audio. I was saying, yesterday, I guess some people left comments in the chat, and they were talking about the panels on the RV and how it's gonna leak because I was using the nail gun to get it back on and all this stuff. I think people misunderstand how those panels actually work. So I'm gonna show that first before I start working on it today because, yeah, I don't think people get what I was trying to do. It was a pain in the ass. I have a different technique I'm gonna use today because I think I might be able to like bend up the lip that it needs to go into. They overlap each other, so what happens is you're supposed to staple the top one down. That's how it originally was. That you could see all the old staple holes. Because remember, I had to take the thing apart, so I saw exactly how it was put together. And so the bottom piece all gets stapled on, and as long as you get that bottom piece stapled on, then the next piece will slide into a gap. So then when the water comes down, the water's not going and hitting each panel gap. It's actually going past that gap and falling onto the skin of the next panel, falling past the gap, and then because it has to go into the lip. And the problem was that the top of the RV, the very first part, the plywood that's on the roof, I made it longer than the original one was because I don't want it to the way that it was before, it was like right up against the metal frame. So if you put a lot of weight on the top of the RV, there's a possibility that the ceiling could collapse down if the wood is rotten at some point years down the line. The way that I did it is it has extra support because now the plywood is laying on top of the frame. So because I did that, the top piece that goes and overlaps that corner, it's hanging out a little over, just barely, like not even a full inch more than it normally was. So I couldn't get it to staple down all the way where it normally went. So that middle piece wasn't going into the flap that it's supposed to go over, and I was trying to hit it with a hammer, and every time I hit it with a hammer, it would go in a little bit, but then like the other side would fall out, and it was just a nightmare. Because, something that long, it's a lot easier if you got like a couple people to hold it up, and then everybody slides it into the gap at the same time. It would probably go in just fine. But I don't have help, so I'm just trying to do it on my own. So what I did last night is I got it to where it's all over the gap, and if I can't get it to go up anymore today by bending it, I'm going to try bending that gap up a little bit so I could slide it up. If that doesn't work, then what I'm going to do is just, it's already enough up to where the water's not going to fall in it. So I'm just going to put like sealant on there and call it a fucking day. And I'll put the rest of the panels on correctly because it's the best I can do at the moment. And the other thing is the parts that are bent and stuff like that, underneath the metal, it's flat plywood, right? It's that thin underlayment plywood. But once I have the RV back together, I can hit it with that rubber mallet and it will straighten a lot of those pieces out because it's going to be hitting flat wood. The parts that don't get completely flattened and still have a little bit of issues, it's not a big deal because I'm planning on painting the whole RV black, and I'm also going to make it have some post-apocalyptic stuff on it. I've mentioned this in the beginning. I said I was going to do other stuff because I wanted to put like some sort of fencing and stuff over the windows. Get out of here, fly. No one wants you. I don't want Luna, trying to bust out through the window if I'm driving by myself or something like that. So I want to put protections in place so that doesn't happen. And I can do that. It would look silly if I just kept this paint job on the RV. But if you looked at it, the panels are all, like, the paint already came off most of the panels. Like, it's all down to the metal. Like, there's no paint, there's no coating on it. If I hit it with the pressure washer, it would probably be just reflecting metal because all the paint will probably just come right off. Remember, this thing was painted in, like, 1977 or before that. So it's okay if it has some dents and stuff to me. Like, I'm not being super careful because I know that I'm going to be putting all this other crazy stuff on it down the line. Like, if you look at any like Mad Max style vehicles and stuff like that, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not gonna go like all the way because I need it to be practical. I don't want it to be like, 1,000 extra pounds on the RV of just metal. So the stuff that I put on it is going to be very minimal, but it's going to be stuff that I need to put on it. But it's going to have that look and feel to it. So dents, scrapes, cuts in the metal, all that shit will fit in when it's done, if it comes out the way I want it to anyway. And yesterday while I was working on it, I had an idea of a paint job that I want to do on it instead of just doing it all black. Like, I think what I'll do is I'll do it all black, but I have an idea of what I want to paint on the front door and on the back and stuff. But I'm gonna try photoshopping it first. So I'm gonna take a few photos, and then I'll go from there. If I think it looks good in the photos, then I'll attempt to do it by hand because it's gonna be more cartoony style stuff. But yeah. So I was thinking of doing something like, because the front of the RV, the way the shape of it is, you'll see it when I go back outside. I was thinking of doing some sort of like Frankenstein-y looking colors on the front, like maybe putting like, the big bolt on the top part of the RV, and then down by where the window and the van part is, putting it, like making it look Frankenstein-y because it's got that big top on it. But then what I was thinking is going back with like some kind of like swoop with the colors, with the green and black, like swoop down towards the back of the RV where the door is to get into the house, and then paint that more of like a red and blackish color. I'll try to make some sort of pattern that I can easily draw by hand on Photoshop, but then put like behind it like werewolf or something, like a cartoony style werewolf, because I mean it kind of would be fitting with Luna anyway. And the whole thing with like Frankenstein was, it was like, a mad scientist like trying to build this human creature out of all these different parts, and I'm rebuilding the RV, and it's going to be kind of Frankenstein of like all this other shit too. So I figured it would kind of fit in. So that was kind of my idea, and I don't know, I thought it'd be kind of dope, but I want to see it, on paper, on computer first. So I'm gonna like Photoshop it and stuff, and I'll see how that might look, and if it looks cool, I'll do it. If not, then I'll just paint it black. What's up, Luna? You want to go out? You want to go back? Go ahead. And then we can put Dracula and bats on towards the back of it if Ashley and Attila show up on the RV, because they're freaking vampires. And Ashley freaking love bats. Everyone loves bats. Who doesn't like? Well, I guess the Chinese don't like bats. They just like eating them. Alright, it's a nice day out. I'm glad I put the plastic on because I woke up this morning and it looks like there was a lot of water up there, so it must have rained a little bit, even though, because my app yesterday said it was gonna, or the day before yesterday said it was gonna rain, and then last night when I checked it said no more rain. But I was like, I'm just gonna do it just in case, because the day before it said it, and it looked like it got wet on the top. So luckily, not that it matters, it's not leaking. I just want to cover because that one panel and the back was open. But I'll see. Bats are super cute. I used to work with Egyptian fruit bats. That's why I ended up getting this tattoo here that's on my arm. Because there was like a closet, like one of those closets that you can buy that have like the doors, and then on the bottom they have the drawers that pull out. Kind of like things you could get at like IKEA. And So the big closet got turned into like a bat enclosure. The doors got taken off and replaced with like plexiglass. So it's like one big, open plexiglass so you can look at them all the time. And then on the top, we put like a chicken wire type thing. It was the ones with the little squares, but we put that all over the top so they had something to hang from. And we put like a light on the top, and then we had a red light for at night so you could still see them. And then the back of the closet we made, which actually the back of the closet is where the plexi went. The front of the closet had the doors, but we turned it around so that you could open the door so you can feed them and like change their water and all that stuff. But the funny thing is, because we had them at the pet store that I used to work at when I was younger, and I would take care of them and stuff, and I'd be in there cleaning, giving them food in the morning and everything. And we'd open the doors, and they would be just waking up, and, all right, this is disgusting, but they would just sit there, the males would sit there licking themselves, like, down there, and people would walk in, like, with their little kids, and they'd be watching the bats, and be like, what are they doing? Because they, like male bats have big dicks for being bats. Like those Egyptian fruit bats are like this size, and then they just have like this huge cock just like hanging out that they're like sitting there licking in the morning, and freaking little kids are sitting there going, what are they doing, mom? Mom, you're gonna have a good job explaining to the kid what's going on, because I ain't doing it. I just work here. Yeah, they're cleaning themselves, but it just looks really bad, and it's just like yeah, it's a cool setup for them. They're really messy though. They make it like a huge mess. It was a lot of cleanup. The whole plexi would get completely covered with like fruit pieces and stuff, and they pee and poop on everything. Yeah, they're messy, but they're really pretty though. I mean, they're really cool to work with, but they're a lot to take care of. Yeah, they don't care. They're gross in that aspect, but they're super cute to watch interacting with each other and everything. Especially because like they had babies, so the babies were just like, they just like hang out with the parents and stuff. It's so dope to watch, like the interaction between the animals and how you try to like relate it to humans. What's that called? Anthropomorphizing or whatever. Yeah, bats are cool. Anyway, I thought those were bats last night when I was working on the RV. I don't know if you heard me go, were those bats? Because they didn't look like birds unless they were like little tiny sparrows. I mean, they were about like this big, and they looked like they were bats though, and they sounded like it the way they were chirping, because it didn't sound like a bird chirp. That's a bird though. There's a huge woodpecker too that I've been seeing every day on these back trees here. You probably heard them when I first came out yesterday, but he's just been hanging out on these trees eating all the carpenter ants and the rest of the bugs that are in there. There's like grubs and stuff now. No, there's I don't know that they were baby bats. The bats here are small. Like they're actually not big bats at all. So that's why I didn't think it was a bird, because they were tiny. And it was late, and usually by that time of night all the birds are already back in their spot sleeping. Well, let's go fuck with this thing. I'm gonna go down there and try to do this once again. Hopefully I can finish it today. But I'll show you guys how those overlap over each other so you can understand why I had such a hard time, and why it's fine the way that I did it. Even if I don't get it pushed up all the way, it's not gonna leak as long as I seal it. Because the guy who had the RV before me, he had already put sealant on that area, because I can see the line of the old sealant exactly where he had it. Now, he didn't seal it all the way down, because you don't have to, but I mean, at one point, if I see that it's leaking, I will, and that'll fix the problem. As long as those metal sheets are not cut and like ripped open, and I put all the panels back on, the panels are going to hide all the imperfections on the corners and where the staples are. So you don't ever get to see that mess. You can make it look as messy as you want. It's covered, so it doesn't fucking matter. And then, so I don't have to worry about like scraping every last little bit of everything off and then making it perfect. That's the good thing about it, is like, that's, I guess, the engineering that went into making stuff like that, right? Is you try to figure out, well, okay, somebody at some point one day is going to have to take this off. How can we make it so that if it's not perfect, it's still not going to be a problem? Like you could see on the back, which I'll show, it's got like this huge space of extra material. So regardless of whether you're pushed up a bunch or you're pushed back a bit, it doesn't matter, because you still have like a huge amount of material that's covering the spot. So it gives you room for error, pretty much, is what I'm saying. But there's no rips in it, so that there's two pieces that got ripped, and that I'll just put sealant on, and it's like literally like that big, and it was such thin metal, and that's why they ripped. But sealant will cover that. I guess that's just a part of streaming, though, right? Armchair quarterbacks. Everyone deals with it. Anytime any streamer is doing anything, you got the whole chat going, "No, why? Why are you doing it that way?" My favorite one though was Burger at the fucking junkyard. That was my favorite. Oh my god, people were freaking out, and then he took that guy's drill bits and broke them all, and then just gave them back and didn't say anything. I was like, that guy's gonna be so pissed when he opens up his drill bit box and realizes that like half of them are broken in half. Oh, you're gonna get bat wings tattooed? I saw there's a couple people online who are selling like actual bats in resin. It looks so cool. If I ever found like a dead one or something, I'd put one in. I have a bird. I have a bird in my freezer that Luna killed. Like, I did a stream like years ago where I showed it and or talked about it, about her grabbing it or whatever. But it was like flying out of my basement, and she jumped up in the air and grabbed it as it was trying to fly out the door. They had a nest in my basement, I think, at one point. Because I always keep that door open so Luna can go in and out. And I have another bathroom downstairs, and they, like, on top of the bathroom, there's like a huge gap where pipes go through for the shower down there, and yeah, there's actually a really creepy shower down there too. Anyway, I think that's where they made their nest, is on top of that wall, on top of the shower. There's like a gap for where all the pipes are. They were probably back there. And then it would every morning fly out of my basement to go get food and then come back in by night. So I think Luna kind of figured it out that every day at the same time it was flying in and out. She just jumped up and grabbed it. But anyway, I have it. I kept it because it's not all like messed up or cut open or anything. So I was just gonna open its wings and put it in resin, like I've seen done with the bats. If you want to put a bird in a box and stomp on it, that's fucked up. I'm not okay with that. I don't like when people do that kind of shit, and it's not cool. There she is. Hi. What happened? You got bored of being outside? Yeah. I'll come out with you. I was just waiting for the live view to boot up. It should be ready by now, though. Are you enjoying the weather? It's not too hot out today. It's actually like a cool breeze. That's why I got the window open. You want to watch me do it? Do you think that YouTube would get mad that I have a dead bird on stream? Does that feel good? Did it feel good though, Luna? You want to say hi to the stream? Go. How? How for the stream? Go. Oh. You how? How? Can you how? No. You're gonna how? Alright, I'll come out with you. Hang on a second. Go out first. Go. Go out. I gotta set up my stuff. Go. I'll be right out. Before I go out though, Roach Gang update. I have to clean this out anyway because I put some fruits in here 2 days ago that are starting to get moldy, so I gotta remove it. But they had more babies. There's a crap ton of babies now, so I had to put tape up here because they all were starting to escape. I found like 4 babies in that tub underneath the tank because that's where the fish were gonna go. Like the goldfish are gonna get moved to that pond. So they were crawling out and falling into the tub and then not being able to get out of the tub, so they died. And then, but there's like a shit ton of them down here. There's like a whole bunch of them. Anybody want some baby Madagascar hissers? Actually, I think in Florida now they're illegal at the shops to sell the females because they can survive down there and people were letting them get out. Here they'll just die because of the weather. They would never survive. They need hot, humid weather. I have to keep like a lamp on top of them to keep it hot and humid in here. But in Florida, they used to sell them no problem, but I think now they have like a new law where you can't get the females anymore. So like the shops can have them supposedly, but they're not allowed to sell them. I don't know for sure. Somebody can correct me on that if I'm wrong. Eat one? No way. Actually, if you look at one of the shops that I used to work at, Ben Siegel Reptiles, that guy got in a lot of trouble because of some shit that he was doing there. But when I was working for him, everything was actually like decent there. I worked for him for a few years, and him and his wife were like in NA, so they would always brag about like how they were clean for so many years and how they were like against all that stuff. And I didn't even smoke weed back then, so I was like fine, and they were like pretty straight laced, I guess is what I'm saying. But then later, after I stopped working for them, I don't know if they got back into doing shit or what happened, but he did have a death at his shop because he had a roach eating contest where he had people eating, I don't know if it was the dubia roaches or the Madagascar hissers, but they were supposed to eat them alive, and whoever ate the most would win like an expensive snake. It was like a special genetic mutation of some sort of boa that I think, or ball python, or maybe it was like an albino ball python or something like that. I don't know for sure, but it was something that was worth money. So one of the guys, that the guy who actually won, he won the snake for like a friend of his, and I think he threw up some of the roaches afterwards. He was outside not feeling good, and he asphyxiated. Like he ended up dying. Like I think either choking on his own vomit from the roaches or something like that. So yeah, I ain't eat no fucking roaches. And also, they can carry things that like different bacteria, and I don't know about viruses for sure, but I think they have certain bacteria that can affect certain people that will like really fuck you up, and some people can have like allergic reactions to it and stuff like that. So yeah, no eating roaches. All those places where they try to get you to eat, like do the roach eating contest and all that kind of stuff, it's actually a pretty dangerous thing to do. If you look up Ben Siegel reptile's death, you'll find what I'm talking about. The stories of, and then later on, a few years after that, he ended up getting shut down and he lost his ability to be around animals because he beat one of his employees with a bearded dragon and then like put it in his mouth and shook it around or something. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there, but if you look up the story, you'll see. That was the place I was talking about that I got bit on the back of my leg by a black widow because I had black widows that I was breeding when I was working at their warehouse, and I went on tour and I left and I told them I had a box under um, my chair that had a bunch of baby spiders in it. So I guess while I was gone, the guy's wife had knocked over my box of the baby widows and didn't realize that there were actually baby ones in there, and they were under my chair, and I didn't know that. So when I came back from tour and I was sitting there doing my computer work, because I used to post all their animals online for sale on kingsnake.com, and uh, one of them, like, I guess must have just bit me while I was sitting there working, and I didn't even feel it or anything, but I had like this huge hole on the back of my leg that was starting to get infected, and then I kept cleaning it out, and then underneath it there was like another hole that started to open up. So I was like, oh crap, I better go to the hospital. I thought I was like getting blade toe or something, and then I like the doctor told me it was probably just a spider bite, and then I started looking for like the baby widows to go feed them and take care of them and everything, and realized that they were all gone. And she was just like, "Oh yeah, I knocked that thing over. I didn't know there was anything in it." So I thought they all just escaped, and went all over the place. And because like in Florida, there are brown widows and black widows, and the brown widows are mean as fuck. They'll try and kill you, but the black widows are actually not that mean. They're more likely to just run away. Like if you disturb their web, they're gonna run and hide. But the brown widows they'll come at you. They don't care. They're mean and but so I think they're cool. I think they're beautiful. So I was actually breeding them because remember we used to sell exotic pets. So like if I bred them and they were all doing well, like we could actually sell them at the store, and I would get a percentage for the stuff that I would sell online. So like I was supposed to get 10% of everything that I sold online. So that's why I actually ended up quitting working for them, because when I was working at their warehouse, they bought like this huge warehouse, like that. You know how when you go like through a warehouse district, sometimes you'll see like there's mechanics that have like a lift or two in the warehouse, and then next to that there'll be like another mechanic company that does tires, and they've got like a couple tire machines or whatever. It was kind of like a setup like that, but they bought one and they put all these racks up, and they started getting those little plastic Tupperware bins, those little shoebox Tupperware bins, and they would just put snakes, like a snake with some newspaper and a bowl of water, and they had like 10,000 of them, like literally 10,000 like ball pythons that they got in, and then they had like another 1,000 racks of like, or another 1,000 snakes of different kinds, like Brazilian boas and all sorts of different things, right? And then on the other side of the warehouse, they had the same style of rack system, but with a bunch of rats, like thousands and thousands of rats, because they were all for feeding all of these thousands of snakes. And they got them in on like some import, and I was putting all these, I had to take pictures of all these animals and post them online, right? Now this is in Florida, and it's hot as balls in Florida in the summer. And I would be working there in the warehouse just sweating my ass off on this computer, like uncomfortably. And I was asking them, like, can I leave the AC on and, shut the door partially so that it's like at least getting somewhat cooler in here? And they were like, no, you can't, because they were bitching about the bills because of the amount of money that it takes to cool down that warehouse, and then also the fact that there were all the snakes in there. They wanted to keep it all hot in there for the snakes. Now I would come in the morning and there would be like hundreds of snakes dead because of the heat in these little Tupperware bins. They probably can barely breathe, and they wouldn't let me put the AC on. So in the morning, I'd come in and I'd be like moving all these snakes into fucking bags, because they had to have proof that these animals died so that they can write it off that they didn't sell them and keep the money, so they could write them off as like a loss for the company. And then I would basically like just be shaking my head every morning, pissed off that that all these animals are needlessly dying, and they don't care because they got them for like 25 cents a piece, because they bought them in this huge bulk of like 10,000 snakes at a time. And they're all wild caught nonetheless. They're like wild caught animals that came from like some jungle in Indonesia or some shit like that. And then like one morning I came in, and there we had this huge ass blood python. And blood pythons are like probably about like this big, but they're thick. Like they're almost like a gaboon viper size. Like if you look them up, it looks like a fat snake, but they're short. They don't get like super long like boas do. And it was dead, and I went to go lift it up into a bag to put it in the freezer. They had like a separate freezer just for all the dead animals. And then I went to go pick it up, and the thing fucking exploded in my hand. And I had gloves on and stuff, but it went all in my shoes and got in my socks and everything. That day, I literally walked out for 3 hours, got in my car, I drove to the McDonald's like up the street, and I was just like with my fucking head in my hands, just shaking my head like, I can't believe this happened. I had to go in the bathroom and like just rinse off my shoes and my socks and my legs and everything of fucking dead snake stuff, right? So they called me up and they're like, where are you? You just left everything open and you left all the stuff here? I'm like, yeah, I fucking left. I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm like, I'm in there suffocating, all these animals are dying, and you guys. And then I sold a $30,000 snake, which I was supposed to get 10% of. And instead he said, oh no, I'm not going to be able to pay you 10% for that one, because that one was a high priced item. And I was like, that wasn't the deal. The deal was everything I sell online, I get 10%. And then they wouldn't pay me for that. So I was like, you know what? I'm fucking done. I'm done. I'm fucking done with this shit. So I quit right there on the spot. And that was the last time I ever saw them or heard from them or anything. And that's when I went and opened up my own place. But the thing was, when I started opening up my own place, I had a hard time because all the shops in South Florida that deal with exotic pets, they wouldn't allow me to come in anymore. There were people that I worked for growing up since I was like 15 years old, like Underground Reptiles. Like, they wouldn't allow me to even come in the store anymore because of the fact, and neither would Ben Siegel's, just because I had my own shop and I started working towards it, because they were like, they didn't want me to steal their ideas or whatever. I was like, what the fuck idea, like, would I steal? Like, every pet shop's the same. You're selling animals. You got, distributors and like all that stuff. And like, I already knew who distributors were and all that stuff because I had been in the industry for so many years. But yeah, then I find out that years later after I quit, that guy died at the shop. And then so maybe it was a blessing that I left. And then he beat his employee with a bearded dragon or some shit. I don't know. I think there's still a reptile shop where he's at, but he moved shop from where I was, because whatever building that I was working at, he moved across the street, like up the road, closer to where Underground Reptiles is. But then when he got arrested and lost his license to work with animals or be around animals, I think somebody else bought the store, but I'm not sure if they still sell reptiles there or not. They might have turned it into something else, but someone else bought the location. Because I walked in there before I moved out of Florida, and it was all new people, and they had no idea who I was. And that was like weird, because I had grown up working for all those shops around there that were like exotic pet shops. Yeah, see, the thing is, for him, I don't know if this matters. He was Jewish, by the way, but his idea was, if I can import these, 10,000 snakes at 25 cents a piece and sell each one for $50, that is such a huge increase in profit that he was making fucking, I don't know, probably millions. Because he had snakes in there that were literally like $10,000, $20,000. And then occasionally in those big orders, they would throw in animals that like they had no idea what they were, but they saw them. Like the people who are capturing these animals in the wild, they would find these weird animals that nobody could identify, so they would just throw them in the box as like something else. They would label them as like like, for example, we got these monitors, and they were like these they were like bright blue, like their whole body was blue, and then they had these white tails with a black tip. No one knew what they were, so we found out that they were the first 15 of like a new species that they had just discovered. And he got them in, so he was able to sell them for like 10, 15 grand a piece or something like that. So occasionally he would get animals that were like super rare or like non-discovered. He was like the only person, there was only 2 people in all of the US who had albino Nile monitors. He had one, and Triple L Reptile in California had the other. But they were both males. And if you were going to try and breed to get babies, you would have to get one of the males to breed with a regular female. Those babies would be het for that albinoism, which means those babies have to grow up, and then you have to breed back the parent that's albino to the baby so that you get albino eggs that, come out. And that would take like 20 years, 30 years or something. It would just take way too long. So he had his priced, it wasn't like really for sale, but the price that they had put on what it's worth is $500,000. And then I don't know what Triple L had theirs at, because theirs was already an adult, which means at any point it could just pass away. So theirs weren't like worth as much, supposedly. I don't know, they're not real prices anyway. And it was just like a weird thing where you have this animal that's worth like $500,000 that he would put in a tank with newspaper and a fucking water bowl. Where, like, I understand that doing that gives it less likely of a chance that monitor's gonna like ingest substrate and die, accidentally, because sometimes while they're eating they might ingest some stuff that they shouldn't, and they just die, and it just happens by accident. They're fucking lizards. And he tried to do everything as safe as possible, but like, I don't feel like he was giving that lizard the best home that he could, especially for it being something that was supposedly worth $500,000. And I think Triple L Reptile gave theirs like this huge enclosure with like this large branches and a pond for it to go lay in and all this shit. And eventually that albino Nile died. Not while I was working for him, but years later after I left, I heard that it passed away. And I was so disappointed to hear that, because I was like, man, if I had a lizard that there was like literally only 2 known ever around here, like, wouldn't you put every last dollar, especially if you're making millions, into making like a big spectacular thing for this animal, to just be like, dude, you are like amazing. And instead he just had it in this little fucking box with plexi and like a bowl of water and newspaper. It's fucking sad. And like there's nothing I could do about it because legally he's not doing anything wrong. He's keeping the animal clean and in a container and whatever. It's following the law. He's feeding it. It's eating, but it's like it's not in anything that is going to be stimulating to that animal at all, you know? Childhood friend had an iguana. Iguanas are mean, dude, when they become adults. I've had iguanas too. I used to have a free roaming iguana that lived in my bedroom with my dog and two sugar gliders, and they would all hang out together in my room. My mom freaked out though. My mom was scared shitless of my iguana because he would like sit on my bed, and she would come in my room to like check what's going on while I'm not there, and the iguana would press her, so then she'd have to leave my room. And that's how I ended up being able to get the sugar gliders because she didn't want me to have any pets. So then when I got the sugar gliders, she never came in my room because my iguana would always press her. So then eventually one day she did come in my room, and the iguana was back because I did have a tank, and he would go back in his tank to bask under his light, but sometimes he would just come out and chill on my bed. So like one day he was back in his cage, so she went in the room to use my computer, and my sugar glider had jumped out of my closet and like jumped on her shoulder, and she lost it because she's scared of rats, and she's scared of like basically rodents. So she was just sitting there on my computer, and then all of a sudden like this weird bat looking rat thing jumps on her shoulder. So I got a nasty phone call. What the fuck is this animal, and why is it on my shoulder? And then I had to come home and you know lock it up and everything, and I got the talking too. Did my iguana become mean? I mean, he was like he'd never became super aggressive towards me, but he was aggressive towards other people, and like he would whip his tail and be like, "Don't fucking come near me." He would get all puffy and start like hissing and all that stuff, you know, like where they start breathing heavy. And he would start bobbing his head, and he would do it to my dog sometimes too. Like he would, like if my dog tried to jump up on the bed, he wouldn't let her come up on the bed, so then she would lay under the bed and he would lay on the bed. Yeah, it's kind of like a flying squirrel. I have to check in here now too, because sometimes they crawl in the corners and they just hide. Oh yeah, here's one. He just fell in the water. See, I fucking knew it. That guy just fell out too. There's one in here. Get out! He's holding on for dear life. Is there any more? I think that was the last one up here. Come on. Oh, he fell. I gotta get him anyway. There's like three of them chilling together. These guys are communal too. They hang out with each other. Look. Oh, come here. Here. Hold on. Where's... Oh, he fell. Let me get a different one. Come here. It's a little baby. Um, hold on. Don't dox my fingerprints, guys. I can see that they're clearly showing up. Say hello to the world, little man. Little roach man. Little roach gang. ABZ's got some new followers now. Hold on, I gotta focus this back. There's a whole stack of them down here. Holy crap. There's a lot more than I thought there was. There's a bunch of babies in there too with them. There's one of the males. He's not happy that I took him out. I'm gonna put him back. Hold on, I'm putting you back. I just gotta clean this up real quick. I have to move these guys into maybe the acrylic tank after something else I'm going to do with it. So, because this tank has these little tiny holes in the back. Because you're supposed to be able to cut out like a gap back there if you want to add in hoses for like a fish tank. So if you want to put those bubble hoses in or stuff for the filter, it's got like these little sections you can cut out. Or for other stuff too, but the little gap, those babies can fit through them. So I have to keep putting on and taking off tape, so I need to move them into something better. My other option too is to just put Vaseline on the side of the glass, because they'll come up to the Vaseline and then they won't want to touch it, so they'll go back down. But I hate doing that because it gets all messy and gross looking. But I mean, if I have to, if this becomes a big pain in the ass, I'm gonna probably do that for now. I looked for it the other day and I don't know where it is. Ashley, did you steal my Vaseline? I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'll find it, but then I'll put it on this glass. I'm not going to the store to just go buy a tub of Vaseline. That's just gonna look weird. Should I just buy some tissues too at the same time? Do people actually use like Vaseline as lube? Like, isn't Vaseline like a petroleum based stuff? Like, wouldn't that be bad to use as a lube? Because I heard people joking about using it like that, but do people actually do that, or is it even safe? No, Melissa's dead and my road manager's dead, so why are you doing that again when I told you yesterday that I don't want to talk about that stuff because you like trolling me. Because, I mean, if you want to keep trolling me, I can troll you back. Just let me know right now. Who designed my t-shirt? It's a Walking Dead shirt. I got it at the store, but I don't know. I'll go look at my tag. It says Anvil. I don't know if Anvil is the name of the company or just the name of the shirt. No, it's cool, dude. Don't worry about it. Somebody yesterday, and I don't know if it was you or not. I thought it was, and I apologize if I got testy, but if it wasn't you, then fine. But I'm gonna remember. If you do it again tomorrow, then I'll know. Somebody yesterday was like mentioning that stuff to me, and I had made it a point because I wasn't in a good mood to say, please don't bring that stuff up because I don't really want to discuss it. And then we left it at that. So I thought that you were the same person who was asking me that yesterday when I gave that reply. And if you're not, then I apologize. But if you are, then I'll remember next time you do it because I made a big deal about it right now. So I won't forget. But yes, that's the situation. Don't really like talking about it and shit like that. But if you guys want to like that's where that conversation is just over, okay? So we don't need to talk about it in chat. We don't need to talk about it IRL or none of that. I just don't like it. It puts me in a bad mood. It's just not worth it. It's dumb. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exit. Don't worry. I apologized and I said I'm sorry if I thought that was you, and it wasn't. If I just don't like I don't like it. I don't like that conversation. It's a sad conversation, and we already got enough sad shit going on in this world. It's no point to go on about any of that. It's not anything I wanted to happen to anybody, but shit went down, unfortunately, and that's why I'm here and not there. We time traveled to the future, and now there's no going back. It's cool. I have Nightbot for, well, not for stuff like that, but I saw it holds a chat log of every chat on all my streams. So if I ever want to search stuff, there's like a search feature there that you can put in, whatever the text was for the chat, and then you can see like who says what, how many times people chat. It says like who your top people chatting are. It's really cool. It shows all those kind of stats there that YouTube doesn't have, which kind of is weird because YouTube should have all those features. I mean, they have access to the database, they built the system. Like, it would be easy for them to just put in some sort of code to say, okay, how many times has this person been in your chat? How many, like, you could look at stats for everyone in there. And I guess maybe that could be some sort of like privacy issue, but like not logging people who don't chat. Like, if people want to remain silent and just be in the background lurking, like, that shouldn't be logged. But if people are chatting, like, there should be a limit. Like, if somebody says more than, if somebody chats more than this amount of times, it should start logging, the chats and all that stuff. So you could always go back for stuff. Like, it would come in useful too for when people get bans or when people get modded in the chat, for someone like a streamer to go back and say, okay, what did this mod do? Did they just ban everyone in the chat for no reason? Is this mod being an asshole to people? Like, you could just go back and type it and find out. You know what I mean? Because I see streamers having issues with that too. And it would be so easy for YouTube to implement those kind of features. I've made suggestions on there because, like, YouTube has features where you can like go to different forums and stuff, and it'll send you, like, if you have feedback, you can say like there's like some button near the help section that'll say give me some feedback, like if you want to say, hey, this page should have a button that does this, and it actually will send a screenshot of the page to YouTube or to Google, and they will have it with your comment, so you can say this is what happened or whatever. So I did that a few times to give feedback on things that I think should be added, but you never get a response for that kind of stuff, and you never actually see them implemented. So again, it's like you feel like you're just wasting your time doing that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, it can remove video comments too. Yeah, that's right. Oh, and yeah, the thing is, yeah, that's the thing. If somebody goes and abuses their power in modding or whatever for a chat, and it'd be nice to go back and check on what happened. And I think, let me see here if I can show it or not. Trying to find the button for it. Here, let me re-add this and see if I can show it. Sorry, just give me a second, because I'm wondering how it works anyway. I also was able to turn off that other feature that I was having a hard time finding, where it was auto modding stuff in the chat and you'd have to keep hitting approve, just like if somebody says a bad word. So I was able to fix that this morning, and they did put it in like a weird area because it's under settings, and then you have to go to the community section to find it. And then it's not even like, if you go to the community section where you normally have the approved users and the moderators and the banned people and all that kind of stuff, In there, there's like another tab called defaults, and it's under there. It's like so hidden, so you can hold inappropriate chat messages for review. But like if you go into the actual place where the live stream is, like the dashboard with all of the live stream settings, you can't find it in there anywhere. It's not there. It's hidden. That's why I couldn't find it yesterday when I was looking for it. I just said fuck it and I left it on. I read chat. I just ignore it when people are saying dumb shit in chat. Or if I'm reading somebody else's message or responding to something else. But I go through and I read stuff. If you want to know why I keep bugs as pets, originally, first of all, I think bugs are cool and they're interesting and there's a lot more to them than you probably think. And I originally had these bugs because I was breeding them for food for my fox, because foxes are not supposed to eat dog food or cat food. That's not a cat or a dog. So their diets are different. Plus, mine was from the desert where they only really eat bugs there. There's not a lot of vegetation growing, so it's not like I could just feed him a bunch of cat and dog food that have fucking grains in it or any of that kind of stuff. It would just make him really sick. The vinegaroon's gone. I don't know what the fuck. He just vanished. There's no... And the weird thing about the vinegaroon is, like, there's no way he could have gotten out. The tank has no holes in it whatsoever. It's a glass tank, and the top had a heavy light on top of it, so it's absolutely impossible that he could have pushed that thing up and moved out of there. And then I dug through all of the dirt twice, and I could not find any remains, which is weird because a vinegaroon doesn't decompose. They have an exoskeleton, so you would at least find pieces of it if like the crickets had eaten it or something. He just vanished. I don't know if he time warped into another dimension or what, but what I did was I left the water out, like empty, for like a week or two, and I kept checking to see if, because normally he would come out and start walking around if he was hungry or thirsty or whatever, and I would see him regularly, like, but it wouldn't be till like 3 a.m. when it's dark, and I'd see him come out and like walk around. But I was looking every single day for like over a month, and I just didn't see him come out. But I kept looking underneath the tank, and I still saw the hole where he normally hung out. So I didn't really mess with him because I was like, I don't want to bother him if he's still there. But then I realized that he wasn't still there. When I went to go feed him, I took apart the whole tank on stream, and I'm like, I can't find him. And I showed it on stream. Like, I moved everything. And then, but the tarantula's fine. The roaches are fine too. The centipedes, yeah, I had a centipede disappear like that. That was weird too. And when I lived in Florida, I was living with Laura at the time and my ex Sarah, and like I had this blue centipede that was really pretty, and I went to go feed him and I couldn't find him, and I was like, well, I hope he doesn't fucking hang out in my bedroom because that's gonna hurt really bad if I lay on him. I think he just escaped. That one, there was like a little crack on the corner of the tank that he might have fit through, but I couldn't find him anywhere, so he must have went out. But that was when I was like in my early 20s or something. It was a long time ago. Yeah, that's EBZ's chat room out there. I didn't think you knew, or I thought you already knew, but maybe not. Yeah, that's EBZ's chat room in a box. I had other species of roaches too. I had dubia roaches also, because I didn't want to feed Scout the same thing all the time. So I also had beetles and mealworms, superworms, all that stuff I was breeding. But when he passed away, I gave all of the extra bugs that I had to the pet store that you guys see me go to all the time. I gave them everything. I told them they could just feed it to their animals there, or keep them and sell them, whatever they want to do. And the only ones I kept were the roaches, because the hisser roaches are actually, I don't know, I think they're way cooler, and they have a lot more personality. They don't just like run around crazy like regular roaches do. They walk really slow. You can see them interacting with each other. Sometimes they get into arguments. It's kind of funny to watch, to be honest. But I want to set them up with something really cool. And in order for me to do that, I'm going to have to make some space in this cabinet on the wall behind this computer wall, where like all those stuffed animals are that people gave me, and the crystals and the resin stuff and all that. I was gonna set them up in something in there, make something really nice for them. Yeah, all the males have horns on the hissers. But yeah, those are the ones I was just showing. So I'm gonna put them in there, but I have to build something, which is, another build project that I'm not gonna do now until I finish this fucking RV. So everything else that I want to do is waiting till I'm done with this. That's why I'm frustrated when things don't go the way I want them to on the RV, because it takes me an extra day or two to do it. And also, I don't have all the right tools either. Like, the staple gun that they use to put together the framing and the siding on the RV, that metal stuff, they use staple guns that are like industrial strength, huge ones that are made for like building a house. The one that I have is for like fucking putting on baseboards to your wall in your house that are like this thin of wood, like soft wood. So they don't need to be super powerful. So half the time when I hit the metal with it, it just bends the fucking staple instead of going through the metal. And I don't have $150, $200 to just go buy another staple gun. So it's like shit like that takes forever, but little by little I've been getting pieces back on and and off in the beginning, and it's at the point now where I'm close to having it close back up. So I'm seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, all right. You want me to talk about my soft wood werewolf? Is that really what you want this conversation to devolve into? Because, trying to get some shit done here. Sideways camera is a sideways camera. Sideways camera is a sideways camera. Now, if I want to be backwards man, the backwards man will walk backwards as fast as I can. Of course, daily passed out thumbnail. Oh, sorry. Why are we getting lag? I saw lag for like a second. Oh, it must have been just when I was moving stuff. Alright, well, audio is working. Looks fine. Just want to get some music on. I apologize again in advance for this BS music. I don't really have a choice right now. See, look, I'm right here next to the Bluetooth, and it's still kind of glitching out. But when I have it connected to my phone, it doesn't do that. Maybe the Bluetooth is getting chewed up by my Wi-Fi since it's like right here. Yeah, I wonder why it does that from my computer. But I do have another Bluetooth module. Maybe I'll plug that in and I'll connect to that instead and see if that has a better signal than the one that's built into my computer. This female fish is a lot more white than she used to be. Like, her face is starting to turn all white. She's starting to lose all her orange. It's like she's got vitiligo. And that's One-Eyed Willie. He lost his eye in a famous battle of 2015. Infamous, I should say. Oops. Alright, let's see. No water. Nothing's wet. Nothing's wet. Everything stayed dry. Perfect. That's what I like to see. So at least the job I'm doing is somewhat working out. Let me put chat on in here. Why don't I live in the RV? Because I have a wolf dog, and wolf dogs can't live in a small space. And I like having a yard for her. I like having a real shower. I like having a real bedroom with my king-size bed that my wolf can lay on with me, instead of having to try to fucking snuggle up in this little tiny-ass uncomfortable RV. And before, too, you know, I had the fox as well. Like, the fox needed his own room. I had to build, like, a whole desert room for him. Like, he can't live in a cage or in a fucking RV or anything. Like, my animals wouldn't be happy living in an RV. Like, if I travel in an RV and I'm going different places all the time, like, for Luna, she'd be okay with it as far as, like, going hiking all the time and stuff like that, but eventually I would get sick of it. Like, I need a place to actually have my shit. Plus, I have, like, my music gear and all that stuff. Like, I'm not gonna just lock all that shit up in a warehouse and hope somebody doesn't steal it. What's the plan for the outer shell? Oh, I was talking about it earlier. I'm gonna be making it more of like a post-apocalyptic styled RV anyway. But then I had an idea for the paint job that would kind of also be fitting for the RV, and I talked about it like more towards the beginning of the stream. I'm going to show you how the panels actually lay out, because people were confused yesterday about whether or not it was going to work, because everyone thought it was still going to leak and all that, but I'm going to show you why it's going to be fine. Let me go check the Bluetooth thing real quick and see if I need to just switch the Bluetooth module for this. I'll be right back in a second. Yeah, I don't know. I think it says like I need to reboot to get the driver to work properly, and I'm not gonna do that. Rabid Cupcake, that would be a great first video if YouTube wouldn't suppress you for it. I hear him yelling. What is he yelling about? You want to come out? Give me a minute, because it's going to give me problems unless I reboot this. So let me just reboot the computer, and I'll start this right back up.